In this segment you will learn how to create and use a macro. You'll notice we're on the View ribbon, and we'll go over and we'll click on the macro, the down arrow. This allows us to either view macros or record macros. Now the reason you would use a macro in the first place is because a macro in this version of Excel, probably all versions of Excel, but in this version of Excel, which is 2010, it's used to capture keystrokes. By capturing these keystrokes that you would use on a repetitive basis, you only have to do it one time, and then you can run the macro and those keystrokes will automatically be performed. We'll go to Record Macro, establish a name, and we'll call it, in this case we're going to establish a class roster. Can't have any spaces. We'll record it in this workbook, and we are now ready to record all future keystrokes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a spreadsheet. I'm going to have a name, address, to, I'm going to have city, state, zip code, and I'm going to have a student ID number. And I'm going to dress it up a little bit. I see a mistake there, so I'll go in and I'm going to center these things. Maybe I'll just underscore them all, and now I'm ready to go. I'm ready for input. Now I'm going to go back to my view, go to my macros, and I'm at this point going to stop recording. So every keystroke between the start recording and the stop recording has been captured. I'm going to go over to Sheet 2, and let me blow this up just a little bit, and I'll click on A1. I'm going to go over to Macros, View Macros, and I see my class roster is sitting there. Well, I see a T also. I'm going to delete that macro. You want to delete macro? Yes. Thank you. I'll go back to View Macros. Now I'm down to one macro. At this point I want to run it. And you'll see that it created all my headings for me without me having to do another keystroke. It did all my edits for me because remember, it did everything between the time I started recording and ended the recording. Now another thing that we can do is, if we go back to macros, view macros, class roster, I want to edit that class roster. No, I don't want to edit that class roster. I want to go to macros, view macros. I'm going to double click. I'm going to view macros. I'm going to click on class roster. I'm going to go to options. And at this point I'm going to create a shortcut key. I'll hit my shift button and I'll use the C, and what that does is my shortcut key is Control Shift C. Hit OK, hit cancel. I'm going to go to another sheet. Let's blow it up a little bit. Now without having to go into the macro icon, I can do Control Shift C, and there's the results of my efforts. This now concludes the segment on creating and running a macro.